Welcome back again to the Chief Woman Arise talk show. I'll be your host today, Shennette, and I'm joined with these lovely ladies, and we're going to talk about marriage and why marriage matters. So stay tuned. Marriage is very significant when we think about just the foundation for relationships. I love history, so I went on a little deep dive to figure out what marriage is and how did it grow to be the union we see today. And originally, marriages were just things people did to keep their family in order or in line. Back way in the 17th, 16th centuries, even further than that, marriage was really something to keep your family name going, or the heritage or the kingdom or the tribe. Eventually in the 1800s, that's when people start to marry for love. Mm-hmm. And I thought, that was kind of interesting that it was literally only maybe 200 to 300 years where people actually could decide to get married. Mm-hmm. We know today in other parts of the world, we do have arranged marriages, but we're going to talk about marriage and the value of marriage that we see here and what all of us believe. Marriage takes commitment, it takes gentleness, it takes humility. But I think one of the big things marriage takes is the ability to serve another person. You see, a lot of times people think that marriage is, oh, I'm with someone so they can complete me. But I'm a firm believer that you should be coming together as two complete people working together for the good of your cause, or for the good of your family, or whatever God has placed in front of you. I also believe that marriage takes a whole lot of laughter, a whole lot of compromise, things that people don't necessarily see when you turn on the TV and they show you images of marriage. I also was researching and I found out that the marriage is on a decline in the United States. And so one of my first questions I want to throw out to you ladies is, why do you think we're seeing fewer marriages in America today?
Well, I would say probably because the divorce rate is so high, and I think that's a generational thing. Personally, I'm divorced, and that happened to my mother and father as well. And my mother's mother also was divorced a few times, and she had 5 husbands, in all. She out-survived every single one of them, but she had divorced a few of them. I don't remember how many, because there were so many, but I think that's a generational problem. And I think we're seeing men and women getting married later and later in life and having babies later in life because they're scared of divorce. So they are a lot more cautious now, but I still feel like even some people think that they can intermingle and live with somebody before they're married, and try it out, so to speak. But I don't think that is really the best idea, for sure. Certainly isn't biblical, but you're getting the cart before the horse, so to speak, when that happens. And so I don't think that's really wise to do that.
Yes, Naomi, I do agree. One of the rates I saw is that we have a lot more people cohabitating now than we would have had even in the 1960s. They're saying that in the 1960s, that even 72% of Americans were more excited about the ideal of marriage. Mm-hmm. And I do think that stigma comes a lot from media, what you see on TV, a lot of the shows that are being out there. We don't really see any healthy marriage, any families working together. For the sake of drama, entertainment, it's a lot of negativity put out when it comes to marriage. And being a young girl, my mom was also divorced. Mm-hmm. And so I was able to see that play out, but I also saw other people in my church, in my community, who did have long lasting marriages. So it made me have hope that I could do the same. And so I would ask you ladies the same question. Why do you think marriage is on a decline in America today?
we say America, I put a lot of it back on the government because now you're able, a lot of people who cohabit or are together are still sometimes able to get the same type of benefits as married couples.
Like
So-
health insurance.
Right,
and things like that.
right. So it's more on the, well, why do I need, back in the day, it was like, well, let's get married because of benefit wise, it's better for benefits. But now, I think the government stepped in a lot, maybe overstepped a lot, and it's just okay. Whether you're married or not, you're gonna get the benefits. So that's what I think. I also think the culture in America, culture has a lot to do with it, especially the media, what we see. It's the culture, a lot of people are looking at what the celebrities are doing or what the people of influence are doing. Oh, well, they're looking at, oh, well, you can do it and still have everything, not be married. So I think that, and then too, lastly, it's a strong belief in America with young people that I don't have to be married.
Mhm.
I don't need to be married to prove my love to this person. That's really like the mindset of we don't have to be married. I love you. It's
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
But I also think it's a commitment. It's the lack of commitment is the reason, something you get married or you start living with someone and there's a problem, you start fighting and think, well, I don't have to put up with this.
Mhm.
And they walk away.
Mhm.
But, with a marriage, and I've been married long enough now, I've had lots of fights, but I found that, that when you recover from that,
Yeah.
you're so much stronger as a couple. And there's
Yes.
something that happens, there's a dynamic that happens
Mhm.
that makes you even more committed and more in love with each other because you have gone through difficult times.
Right.
I think people are missing that because it's so
yeah.
quick to run away
Yeah.
because of a lack of commitment.
Yeah.
I agree with both of you, Sharon. Even the commitment thing is not only in marriage, it's just in relationships with jobs. We see a big shift in how we address issues and solve conflicts here, especially in America. It's like, I can do this all by myself. I don't need anybody kind of mentality. And it's really driving our families apart. But it's also, I found interesting that a lot of the statistics for people who are in prison, who are dealing with mental illness, a lot of them come from single family homes. A lot of the kids who are really, especially our young men, that seem to be, lacking the value of appreciating authority. It starts in the home, and a lot of them are not seeing that duality of a relationship worked out every day. So when it comes to jobs, when it comes to relationships with people, it's easy to call it quits and not have a commitment because it's not any standard of that has been set for them. I also wanted to piggyback on what you said about benefits. In my research, they did say that originally people got married because it provided them different benefits, supports. They know that when they left their wealth, it will be passed down to the family line. And now we see with the government allowing common law marriage, a lot of these things, that anybody could get these benefits. So it makes people less likely to even see marriage as a benefit.
Right.
So I want to ask you guys, what are some key things that you think that would help a marriage or, help young people see the value in marriage?
One thing I'll say is I think that getting another couple who has the experience to be able to talk to, because you don't know the pitfalls. When you're newlywed, it doesn't matter what age you are. If you've never had that background, somebody said here they didn't really have that experience to have somebody in their lives that had a healthy marriage. So find somebody that can give you that so that you can have you can work on it before you ever get married.
Yeah.
I think it makes a big difference.
Yeah. And then too, sometimes having with that mentorship, having it from somebody who's actually working for them. I say that because, for example, my father was from a different generation. His got a girl pregnant, we married her. It. Right. So sometimes that can be the wrong reason, and or I come from a household where both of my parents were married, but it's very dysfunctional. And so, a lot of the stuff that I grew up with thinking was a good marriage, I didn't even really know, even though I was brought up in a home with two married people, doesn't make it was a great home. I just see a lot of the good values of marriage. So it took my marriage to, I had to unlearn a lot of things that I was brought up in, if that makes sense. So that's why I say you want to make sure that you're being mentored by a couple, not so much perfect, but it's working for them and it's healthy. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, for a long time, I didn't really want to get remarried. I didn't have any desire for that. But then one time, my pastor and his wife did a segment at church, and they were talking all about what a healthy, godly marriage looked like. And I had never heard or seen this walked out in my life.
Yeah.
Just like you were talking about, Shana.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really helped me to have that desire for marriage again, because I just saw how they talked about the marriage that they had together.
Yeah.
And I found it interesting when I was doing research that they say people who are married are actually happier, and that they actually perform better on their jobs. They actually live a lot longer because you have someone there, like you were saying, Sharon, to support you through those tough moments. But you also have someone there that you can depend on throughout life. So I think that that's something that we need to share a lot more, that, having someone who can support you does make a big difference. Someone who can encourage you, who can love you, who can care for you. I know when I was personally battling with lupus at one point, I couldn't even do things like take a bath by myself or make certain meals. And my husband, he was a real backbone for me during that time period. I don't know where I would have been or how I would have gotten through that without him. And it showed me how much he cared. He loved me, but despite the changes in my weight, my hair, my face, he still was there for me. And I think that's a message that we need to share out, that, we can have people who can be in our corner despite what's going on. We can learn to resolve conflicts in a way, and then we can also hope again for a new love in the correct way to be with someone for the rest of our life. I also want to leave you guys with this. If you can give me one word that you would say that would describe a marriage that matters, to give to our viewers, what would you say that word would be?
One word?
Yes, it can be one or two. You can say like why marriage matters, this helps, or you can just one word that you think of when you think of marriage.
Yeah, I have a word.
Okay.
Sacrifice, which is not something that people think about when they think of marriage. You think of all the positives. The sacrifice can be a positive. I think that I have learned so much about not being selfish because of being married. And when I sacrifice what I want for my husband, there's a growth in me that happens. And there's a joy that comes from that when you're willing to serve someone else and not always look for, meet my need. Right. So I think sacrifice is an important word for healthy marriage.
Yes. My word would be legacy. I'm at the point of my marriage now. You get past a whole lot of other stuff, and now you're thinking about leaving that legacy for your grandchildren, their children. That's
I'd probably say self-control, because I think both and need self-control.
Yeah.
And I would say my word would be being vulnerable. I think for both the men and the women, it's very important to be vulnerable with that person, to allow that person in, to allow that person to challenge you in a way that can help you grow. Yes. Because at the end of the day, marriage is not just, we're buddies, and you should be friends, but it's also about someone helping you grow throughout life. and examine those things about you that you may need to change.
Yes.
So thank you, ladies. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. This has been our discussion on marriage and why marriage matters. And we hope we've given you some insight on how we can make relationships and marriages more successful in our